Hello and welcome to Diaspora Network, the program where we celebrate Nigerians making remarkable strides around the world. I'm Teniola Oyetayo. On today's program, we spotlight climate innovation and the Nigerian entrepreneur in the United States building technology to tackle polluted water, carbon emissions, and waste. Our guest is David Gory, co-founder and CEO of AirBuild. He shares how his childhood experiences in Nigeria shaped his climate mission and why clean water and clean air should be universal rights. But before we hear from him, here's a look at what's making headlines across the global Nigerian community.
Nigerian health communication scholar Abdul Malik Lawal has graduated from the University of Nevada, Reno, USA, earning 10 major honors for excellence in research, science communication, and public health scholarship. He completed a Master of Arts in Media Innovation and received the university's highest student distinctions, Outstanding Graduate Student Researcher of the Year, and the Reynolds School of Journalism's Outstanding Graduate Student Award, an achievement attained by only a select few students. Lawal also won the Center for Advanced Media Studies Thesis Award for his research on antimicrobial resistance in Nigeria, alongside several prestigious recognitions, including the Rittenhouse and Hedges Journalism Scholarship, the university-wide Best Research Poster Presentation Award, an Investigative Reporters and Editors Fellowship, and the National Association of Science Writers Award and Conference Fellowship. He is set to pursue doctoral studies and currently serves as co-founder and director of the African Center for Health and Crisis Communication, where his work focuses on health information access and behavioral change in underserved communities.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be outstanding for her worship the mayor.
The growing prominence of Nigerians in British public life was once again on display in London, United Kingdom, as Councillor Rosaline Oguro was officially inaugurated as Mayor of Islington. Her appointment comes just a year after Nigerian-born Jason Jackson made history as the borough's first Nigerian-born mayor, a development that many see as further evidence of the increasing civic and political influence of the Nigerian diaspora across the United Kingdom. Councillor Oguro, who was elected to represent St. Peter's and Canalside Ward on Islington Council in May 2022, has built an extensive record of public service. Prior to becoming mayor, she served on the Homes and Community Scrutiny Committee, the Licensing Committee, and most recently as deputy mayor of Islington. Before entering office, she worked closely with several voluntary organizations, including the Islington Citizens Advance Bureau, where she continues to serve part-time as an advisor. Drawing on a background in community advocacy and broadcasting, Mayor Oguro assumes office at a time when local councils across Britain are navigating mounting social and economic pressure.
It means the world to me. I don't only have to know my ward, which is St. Peter's and Canalside, but I get to go all over Islington and meet the diverse community that we have, meet young, old, different colors of people, different shades of people from all walks of life. So I get to go so many places, get to know Islington better. I was volunteering even in Nigeria. I was a member of the Seroptimist International of Great Britain and Ireland. It happens to be the Festac branch. Seroptimist is an organization that uses the professionals, to uplift women. You know how women were relegated in the background, even up to the point that women couldn't read the news when I joined, and as you heard, I was one of those to blaze the trail at that time.
The full interview with Mayor Rosaline Oguro will be featured in the next edition of the program. Don't miss it.
And now to our guest, David Onojite Gory Jr. is a Nigerian-born engineer, entrepreneur, and co-founder of Airbuild. Born in Delta State, he moved to the United States as a teenager and went on to study mechanical engineering. Today, his company is developing algae-based systems that clean polluted water, capture carbon, and turn organic waste into biochar. David Onajite Gory Jr. once dreamed of becoming an actor, but a conversation with his mother changed his direction.
I'm an only child, born to two Urobo parents, so you know the drama that brings. Um, and growing up, my dad worked in sales. My mom sold things in the market, so she had a shop, and then she became a teacher. And you know what they say about teachers' children. So it really played a huge part in my development. I wanted to be an actor growing up. I was president of my drama club for 4 years, which is unheard of. And that, by the way, this is something I love bragging about. So I wanted to be an actor. I told my mom that I wanted to, again, be an actor. My role model was Kim Mowa, and she said, if you want to go abroad, you study either medicine or engineering. If you study acting, you will go to Delsu here in Abraka. So that was the moment I decided I wanted to be an engineer. So I feel like growing up, really every part of it shaped, the way I see the world today and who I am as a person.
At 16, he moved from Nigeria to the United States to study mechanical engineering at Cleveland State University.
I was barely 16. They dropped me off at the airport to fly from Lagos to Cleveland to be with my cousin and go to Cleveland State University. And they dropped me off at the airport, went home. Before I could even check in, right, to board the flight, I got a video, and it was a video of my mom was recording my dad. My dad was sweeping and dancing, singing "Away with my pain, away with my sorrow, never ever will I suffer again." And he said that to his only child before sending him across the globe. So that was really a big pivotal point in my life. The transition wasn't too aggressive or drastic for me because I was a Disney child growing up. I was blessed enough to have a TV in my room because I used to fight with my dad for the TV in the living room, and I would cry. So he gave me one in my room, and I spent my childhood watching Disney shows and Cartoon Network. So I watched all the high school musicals, and really I was ingratiated deep into the American culture. So when I came here, it felt like a continuation of what I had seen on TV. The really big shift for me was the way they talk to their teachers here. It baffled me because in Nigeria, I remember once my chemistry teacher told me, go and bring a chair. This was in Lumen Christi. He told me to bring a chair. I ran to go to the hostel to go sleep. This man haunted me to my hostel, gave me 3 sweet slaps, and never again did I run away when a teacher sent me a message. But here, I would see people stand up my first semester, stand up and argue with the teachers on a subject that they know nothing about. And in my head, anytime I saw that, I could always imagine either my mom or the teacher walking up and slapping the student. So that was like the big, culture shift, for me.
Yeah, and at a really young age as well. And I'm interested in how, you emerging into a new environment, you had, sort of an idea from Disney, but it's very different than actual real life. Um, how did that now transition into you wanting to build solutions around climate and infrastructure? When did that come into the picture?
So the first time I saw 24/7 energy, right? 24/7 electricity was when I moved here. And that was, you know, in Nigeria they always promise it, but at this point it's kind of a myth, right? I know it's a little better now in some places. And that was a shock, right? Seeing NEPA does not seize light here. That was a huge shock to me. And I started so from when I was 13, I had a project in GSS3 about researching into WHO and the UN, and I dove into the quality of life and seeing why the quality of life in African countries is so low. And that's, again, a stress is part of it, but it's also related to terrible air quality. I believe 7 out of 10 deaths are related to something either with water pollution or air pollution that has damaged the lung to the point it doesn't have the capacity to last as long as your quality of life, as your lifespan should. So having that, at the forefront of my mind, coming here and seeing how, they lived, seeing 247 energy, seeing water that you can rely on, not having to walk or run miles to go fetch water from a well, or having to wait for NEPA to bring light so you can boil water to have your bath with hot water. Seeing that just, it relit the fire that I guess was lit when I was reading those articles in me, to say that we can live better, we can build a better life, and we can increase our quality of life. And at that point, it was a big shock to me because my parents I mean, we get older every year. I see my parents getting older, my family getting older, and I want them to be around for as long as they physically can. And I know that's what everyone, as people want. So that's kind of what, relit that fire and put it in my head that we have to find a way to make the quality of life better for really people around the globe, but primarily people back home.
After completing his undergraduate degree in 2019, he faced another reality familiar to many migrants: the struggle to enter the job market as an international graduate. That challenge pushed him back into further study and eventually into co founding Airbuild.
Of course. So I think the subject for this story is availability meets opportunity. I graduated in 2019 with my undergrad degree from Cleveland State University. And when I graduated, I started searching for a job. It was during Donald Trump's first presidency. And as you all know, his love for immigrants is it's something. So when I graduated, we're 62 of us that graduated from Cleveland State University at the time. I was the only international student, and I could not find a job. Every job I applied to, when I told them I would require sponsorship, that was the end of the interview. It got to the point where I started running case studies, right? And by saying, no, I don't require sponsorship, I would make it all the way to the final step of the interview and then go, see, I do require sponsorship. That's the end of the interview. So I had to go back for my master's as a reason to stay in this country because personally I wanted to move to Canada. But my mom said, no, God sent you there. You would dominate the land. And by the way, I'm quoting. And I hope she really does see this. So she chuckles a little bit. And that then led to me going back for my master's. And when I was doing my master's, it triggered a shift in me saying, I don't want to go back to the job market. And then my close friend Himanshu Mohare connected me with my co-founder, John Booker, who studied urban heat islands in the University of Arizona. And when we connected, we had an incredible conversation relating, my story back home to what he's seeing here. And we decided to start the company. So three of us started the company. We then met my other co-founder, Dr. Richard Marita from Kenya, who had lost his mother and sister to waterborne diseases. So the story just resonated. We came together in 2021, started working through the ideation, thinking about solutions, bonding over the problem, and didn't officially start the company till 2023. AirBuild, we've deployed a self-powered autonomous system that recovers nutrients from wastewater, so nitrogen, phosphorus. We also take out microplastics, PFAS, heavy metals, thereby treating that water. And we turn those recovered minerals into biochar, which is a slow release fertilizer for local farmers, while also capturing carbon and storing it for over 1,000 years. So in this one strategic deployment, we are treating water from polluted rivers, polluted lakes, industrial and municipal wastewater, capturing carbon and creating fertilizer for local farmers. With the Strait of Hormuz being closed right now, we're seeing how that's impacting agriculture and, the fertilizer supply chain, which aggressively relies on that. And, food and water are two big things that we need to live. And so we're hoping to be a solution that not only solves it on the climate front, but also ensures access to these valuable resources that we need to survive.
So, what makes Airbuild's biopods different from traditional water treatment or carbon capture systems?
So really two different sides of the spectrum. With your traditional water treatments today, They're done with electrochemical processes. So you have your primary settlements, you have your sedimentation, and then you have your aeration, which is very energy intensive because they are pumping oxygen into the water to break down the bacteria. Microalgae as an organism breathes in carbon and releases oxygen. So instead of going through that energy intensive process of aeration, you can utilize the microalgae for that process, reducing your capex because 60% of the energy from water treatment plants is utilized for that aeration. On the other side, the water treatment plants also have to have a nutrient recovery system because when you send nitrogen and phosphorus, and by the way, billions of tons of these, nutrients are released into our waterways every year. When you send those into our waterways, that leads to destroyed ecosystems, toxic algae blooms, dead zones in our rivers. So the way it's done today is very energy intensive. It's very capex intensive, and not all cities can afford it, which is why you see a bunch of cities around the globe utilize silver lagoons. And these are holes in the ground that they pump their wastewater into, turn around and walk away. Pretty much landfills for wastewater. And with hantavirus starting from a landfill, we've kind of seen what that toxic, dumping your toxic waste without processing it can do. So our solution is a biomechanical solution. You can deploy it for 35% less the cost of your traditional system. And it runs with 60% less the operational cost because we're fully off grid. We don't require the energy intensive aeration or the added part for nutrient recovery. And comparing with your traditional carbon removal solutions, one thing that we held in our hearts when we started this conversation was the internet did not become a thing up until everybody had a piece of it in their pockets. So a way to decentralize the solution is the only way to scale it. Also, we face these terrible air quality problems in our cities. So up until we can clean the air on a city by city basis, on a neighborhood by neighborhood basis, we can't really make an impact into the quality of life of the constituents. So that's where the biopod was born from. It was a way to decentralize, and make the system modular to the point where we can put it in Lagos, we can put it in Asaba, we can put it in Sokoto, we can put it in Cleveland, Ohio, and have it clean the air in that environment for the constituents. So we're smaller and off-grid.
And as we know, many African countries are on the front lines of climate change, but contribute least to global emissions. How does that reality shape your work?
I mean, it's the story of industrialization, and it's if you look at it globally, right? The people who suffer the most from industrialization are not the emitters. The industries are put in places of people with no income, people of color, marginalized societies, and we end up being the people with lower quality of life, the people who on average die in our 50s and 60s, and that's deplorable. So that aggressively shaped our world because my family lives there, I live there, and a way to improve the quality of life and ensure that we can provide really better lives. I think that's what our company should have been called, but my co-founder named it Airbuild and I lost the coin toss. But a way to provide a better quality of life for people is really what we strive for. And that shapes every step of our work every day.
And just talk to us about next steps for you guys. Do you see your technology being deployed to Nigeria and other African countries soon?
We think about it, we talk about it every day. We know we're not there yet because we need to prove out the solution and get it commercially ready before we can start deploying. But that is the reason why we started this company. We started this company because of my story from Nigeria. We started this company because of my co-founder's story from Kenya. We started this company because of the conversation I had with a lady from Thailand who talked about her daughter going into a pool for the first time when she was 7, seeing that body of water and being able to look in and seeing the bottom. And she started doing this. She was like, mommy, look, I can see my hands in the water, which means that for the first 7 years of her life, every body of water she had gone into was so polluted she couldn't see her hands the second they went in. That's why we started this company. So our goal, get this solution from the tech readiness level 6, where it's at right now, which is still a product demo, product pilots, get it to commercialization and take this solution international. Any place along the globe that has polluted water, which is everywhere, polluted air and waste, is a location that Airbuild can be deployed in and is a location that Airbuild will be deployed in.
And what would it take to scale solutions like this on across communities that need it most? Because talking about affordability when building climate technology for vulnerable communities, because we can have a lot of solutions, but if these communities that actually need it can't afford it, there's really no point, is there?
Exactly. So it takes a village. My dad works for a nonprofit organization right now. And by the way, there's a story there which I'm about to dive into. He works for a nonprofit organization right now called DKT, and they do family planning for really in Nigeria. And I call him the condom man because that's really what he does. He sells condoms. And people have made jokes about it in secondary school. And yes, I'm saying it globally now. My father sells condoms. So, they're supported by the Gates and Melinda, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They're supported by other foundations, globally who feel, this hurt. Prior to the Trump administration now, they were supported by USAID. So they are all these organizations globally that invest and fund these solutions for, places, third world countries, second world countries, like Nigeria, like other countries in Africa that need this solution. But when we were building this, we started thinking internally about how we can make this ROI positive, where the governments will be incentivized to partake in this market. Because when you look at oil and gas, why is oil and gas big right now? Because the return on investment is huge. If you look at data centers, in 2026, why is every large billionaire or every country trying to go into data centers? Is because the return on investment is there. So when we were building this solution, we started thinking of how we can create recurring revenue streams to incentivize cities, to incentivize investors, to incentivize funders and organizations to partake in this solution. Luckily for us, we've been able to have the backing of World Economic Forum right now. And we want to continue, touting this message, talking to everyone who will listen, that the return on revenue is there. You can make fertilizer, carbon offsets, water treated. Do you know the difference between impact and money and not mutually exclusive? You can have both in the same solution, and that's what we want to prove.
And just on a final note, what should Nigeria and other African countries do differently to support young innovators working on climate solutions?
There's a top-down approach. I know so many young innovators who are in Nigeria who are building innovative, I mean, truly innovative solutions. I was just part of NASDAQ's Entrepreneurial Center with the Milestone Makers, and about six of the individuals I was there with are from Nigeria, in Nigeria, building waste management solutions, building energy resilient solutions for the grid, off grid with solar. There's so many innovative solutions going on in that country and in the continent as a whole. And the one thing that drives innovation is capital, the access to capital, be it federal, be it from organizations. I know Techstars that backed us, we're really grateful for them. There's Techstars Lagos. There's Techstars in other countries, in Nigeria, where they are doling out capital to support the young innovators who are building innovative solutions to better the life of the constituents. Now, if we can get the government to support that in any capacity, that would be incredible. If we could have grant opportunities available for the deep tech solutions, because for a software solution, you can build that on your laptop, right? Easy and start shipping. But for a deep tech solution, solutions like ours, solutions like Regens, right? You need that larger capital to fund your research and development. And that's something that we have to continue relying on the country, on other foundations for. So if that access to capital can exist for the innovators in that country, I'm telling you, there's so much smarts. There's so much intelligence. There's so many smart people who have the vision. If you look at even here in the US, there's a huge percentage of Nigerian entrepreneurs who are building innovative solutions here, and I know so many of them. And if we had the access to capital, if we had the access to the investors, to the research facilities, we would be building this back home because it's a place that we grew up. We're attached to our nation. We're going through immigration hurdles in all these other countries right now. If we could have a home where we have access to what we need, we wouldn't want to go through this. So that's really what I would implore the government for. Support your innovators and bring us back home because we want to be home.
And that brings us to the end of this week's edition of Diaspora Network. To watch this and previous episodes celebrating Nigerians around the world, visit channelcv.com or our YouTube channel. Until next time, I'm Teniola Oyetayo. Bye for now.